This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cavill.
First, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. And do us a favor. If you like the pod and you want to support it, again, go over to PrizePicks and use that code CLNS to sign up. It will help us tremendously. Greg, let's start here. League meetings, pro days are now done. You spoke to some executives. I want to start with Jayden Daniels. What kind of intel did you get on Jayden?
Yeah, I've been sort of blown away by the sort of consensus. And you know, I'm a guy who I think Jayden Daniels, and I haven't done my deep dive on him. I will start probably next week. Like, I've pretty much done May. I'm skipping over Caleb Williams because everybody knows he's going number one. Yeah. Jayden Daniels, there's a lot to like about him. There certainly are concerns about his size, how he plays, his ability to stay healthy. But at his pro day, I think he measured in at almost 6'4", 210 pounds, almost 9.5-inch hands. I mean, that's really good size. I mean, the weight isn't there, but I do think you talk to NFL people and they say you could see him putting on weight over time, getting to 225, maybe something like that in time. But the evaluation as far as Jayden Daniels, I've been blown away. So I talked to 6 executives at the league meetings, guys who I have longstanding relationships with. I really respect them on the quarterbacks. And just sort of, taking the pulse on them, on the top guys. And I was blown away by, they are absolutely resolute that Jayden Daniels is by far the second quarterback in this draft. All of them, all 6. All 6 says Caleb number 1. All 6 say Jayden Daniels number 2. They just think that he's just special in terms of, he's got the running ability of Lamar Jackson, but he has the potential to be a much better downfield thrower. Now, there are some questions about what sort of offense does he fit best in. Would he really be an ideal fit for a West Coast type offense like the Patriots, where you got to make certain reads, and it's somewhat similar to the old Patriots system, as opposed to, say, what the Ravens ran this past year, sort of like a high-low thing, giving them options where basically it's an options offense where it's like, all right, if this guy does this, then you're going to that receiver. So there are some questions about that, but Jayden's ability to throw from the pocket, especially deep, married with his game-breaking running ability, people in the NFL are just salivating about him as a prospect, and they think he is clear-cut, no doubt, number 2 in this draft.
Any mention of his receivers? I know some people say, well, he had Neighbors, he had Brian Thomas Jr., he had those kinds of guys that can go deep, make plays on the football. Any thought about them helping him so much that he might not be the same guy when he gets to the NFL unless he has talent like that on the outside?
I think that's legit, Nick. That's a legitimate question to ask. Surprisingly, nobody brought that up. And I will say that the film that I have seen of Jayden Daniels right now, it answers those questions that, he's throwing into, even to these guys who are great. It's not exactly Mac Jones at Alabama where a lot of guys are just streaming free. There are a ton of throws deep, on the boundary, tight windows, dropping in a bucket. There are a ton of those throws on film. So I think that people think as long as you have, some sort of representative offense in the NFL, and it looks like, I guess we would have to bet that he goes to Washington at 2. Apparently Brian Kelly, the LSU coach, slipped of the tongue at the pro day, basically like saying like he's going to Washington. And, you look at the mix with Cliff Kingsbury, who is the offensive coordinator there, what he likes to do. He does run that sort of high-low offense. Has had Kyler Murray before, so he understands the dynamic running ability of some of these guys. And the other thing I would say about Daniels going to Washington, Adam Peters is the GM now, and just remember, he was driving the bus in San Francisco for Trey Lance when they traded up in that draft. Him and John Lynch sort of bullied Kyle Shanahan into taking Trey Lance. And I think it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Adam Peters looked at Jayden Daniels, his running ability and his throwing ability, and be like, this is the guy I wanted Trey Lance to be, but this guy is actually the guy. He has the talent. He has the mix of running and passing. And so I think that, and if he goes to Washington, tons of weapons there, McLaurin and company. We saw them last year with Sam Howell against the Patriots. I was very impressed with what they have. Certainly some work to do on the offensive line and other places and on defense, but that would be a pretty good, between offensive coordinator and weapons, would be a pretty good alignment, in my opinion, with Daniels to Washington.
Yeah, some will tell you, again, he had these great receivers, and he did have great receivers, but if you watch Daniels throw, it's a lot about ball placement as well, like where he's putting the football in traffic, down, outside the hash, making those throws, pinpoint accuracy on a lot of those deep throws and great touch. So it has more to do with just the talent around him. All right, what were people telling you about Drake Maye?
So I was a little surprised by this. Same sort of panel of 6 people. They're sort of a little bit, I wouldn't say all over the map, but there was much more concern about Maye, or at least pause about Maye. Now, they all say he's ridiculously talented, and if you didn't believe that before, the show that he put on in his pro day, to me, was terrific. Now, I'm not a big pro day guy, and I don't really care about, he missed 2 throws out of 50. Jayden Daniels missed more. Caleb Williams might have missed more. JJ McCarthy didn't. He had the best pro day out of all these guys. But in terms of, Maye and his pro day, just some of the throws that he made off balance with a guy in front of him, flicking the wrist, it was just, and the deep ball accuracy, it was astounding to me. And it's sort of, I've been a little bit wish-washy on Drake Maye. And before we get to that, let me tell you about the NFL people are basically wish-washy on Drake Maye. Now, when I talked to them, this was before his pro day, but I don't think pro days don't matter that much. So I don't think it would have changed. Maybe 1 vote, maybe, if they were in the same boat as me, which is, I like Drake Maye, but I need to see a little bit more. So they were split. They respect the talent, and it's there. It's real. Sometimes it's breathtaking, the talent that he has. But I think a lot of, or at least some NFL people, they didn't like this past year at North Carolina. Yeah, there were a lot of things wrong around him. Sometimes there's a lot of things wrong around you in the NFL. Look at Mac Jones. And, some people say that Mac Jones, they wouldn't cut him any slack because he couldn't make up for the deficiencies in coaching and the offensive line and the receivers, and nobody cut him any slack and said he needs to elevate people. But when it comes to Drake Maye, they say that, well, you could just excuse it. Things weren't good around him, so just ignore it. I don't understand that. But in terms of the NFL, they were split. 2 people I talked to said the Patriots should stick and pick him because that's how talented he is, and he just needs a little bit of time, and the payoff could be huge. 2 said they would take JJ McCarthy at 2 because they are afraid of Drake Maye's floor, which we heard Gerard Mayo talk about at the league meetings, sort of out of nowhere. And 2 said they would trade down. They would trade out of the pick, accumulate more picks, start the rebuild, target one of the secondary quarterbacks, and sort of go from there. So that's sort of where we are on Drake Maye at this point in time. Now, I will say real quickly, I'm taking a huge swing on Drake Maye. I don't care. That talent is it's too good. He's 21 years old. There's too much room to grow. I believe in Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo coaching him up, and I just think the talent is way too much for the Patriots at this point in time to pass up on.
If Drake Maye is there at 3, I agree with you. I would run the card up to the podium. I would absolutely do that and feel good about it. 21 years old, I think, is very important to continue to stress. I did have a couple thoughts, though. One thought and then one question for you. The pro day with Drake Maye, I don't know if I heard a lot of people talk about this. I talked about it for a few minutes on my podcast last week, the Nick Cattle Show. Little plug for you. But I was talking about Drake's pro day, and what stood out to me, Greg, was I don't know if it stood out to you, but was the challenge of the pro day. And what I mean by that is Maye knows he's very likely going to go top 3. It could have been easy for him to go out there, make 45 to 50 scripted throws, do the things that he's best at, wipe his hands, walk out and be like, there I am. I'm top 3 pick. See ya on draft night. He didn't do that. He went 70 plays. He gave you red zone. He gave you deep throws. He gave a lot of bootleg action back to the offensive line, quote unquote, under center. He went for more than 30 minutes. And I just thought to myself, I remember reading an article about Jaylen Brown before the draft. I fell in love with Jaylen Brown the moment I read how he was working out with Jimmy Butler on the beaches, running through the sand with 95-degree weather, going 6 a.m. to like 6 p.m. And I was like, that dude with his athletic talent, if he cares that much and he works that much, yeah, I'm in on that guy. And I just thought that jumped out at me with Maye. Daniels, not to say he wasn't good. He was good in his pro day. But I thought Maye really took the challenge of, I want to prove to all of you how much I can do, given, again, pro days are pro days.
I completely agree with you. I thought it was an extremely challenging pro day. I couldn't believe for how long he was throwing. I really liked the way he sort of directed his teammates, working off the script, the huddle that he ran, along with just the downfield accuracy that he had. I think you're exactly right. When you compare Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, their 2 pro days, I thought Drake Maye's was much more challenging, and his ability to throw off platform, he'd do an RPO and throw off the wrong foot and those sorts of things. And just his ability and the zip on the ball. I mean, it's real and it's impressive.
All right. Rapid fire. 3 questions for you. Number 1, I was reading Evan Lazar last week after the pro days, and Chip Lindsey, who is the UNC offensive coordinator, made it a point, speaking to the media, to say, hey, look, I know a lot of people are discussing Maye's footwork, and he absolutely needs help with the footwork and he needs to polish that up. But Lindsey, he had said that they changed Maye's dropbacks. The offense was different. Maye was used to dropping back a certain way in 2022. They changed that up in 2023. And Lindsey said, I thought he did a decent job of kind of transitioning at his age of dealing with that. If you're Alex Van Pelt, do you buy that? Do you buy that explanation that, maybe the footwork was a little spotty because the drop back had him in different rhythm and he just tried to get used to it?
No. I reject that. It's on film, and the footwork problems, we're not talking about like dropping back from center or anything like that. We're talking about that Drake Maye, and look, the offensive line maybe wasn't that great, and maybe it affected him. But number 1, he has a tendency to drift, and he even admitted this, I think, at the combine. Like, he drifts in the pocket, for no reason. That's not a drop back issue. That's he's not sure what he's going to get. Maybe the guys are covered, that sort of thing. So he drifts. And the other thing is, when he's under duress, his footwork, for such a big, strong guy, like his feet get very narrow. And instead of throwing with a good base, it looks like he gets a little bit scared. So his feet get narrow. And so his balance is off, and that throws off his mechanics. And this shows up, and I was talking with Gasper about this because we've sort of gone back and forth on Maye on Sunday night on TV. But it's not like I'm not looking at Drake Maye and seeing his struggles from last year. And it's not about like nobody's open or he's not getting blocking. To me, and this goes for all the analysts who, have looked at this and sort of we all see this the same, whether it's Dan Orlovsky or Greg Cosell or, people like that. it's the easy throws that he missed because of his footwork, because of drifting, because his weight gets off balance. I mean, you just go watch the NC State game from last year, and the amount of just gimme throws, guys are open, just little checkdowns and stuff, that he was just completely missing. Those are the issues. Like if he was like fine on that stuff, but maybe couldn't find people downfield or the blocking, then I'd say like, okay, I understand. It's the easy throws that he misses that causes people the most concern.
All right, we have more on May. We have more on the draft, some mock drafts out there, including a recent report about Elliott Wolf's fascination with JJ McCarthy. Before we get into all of that, Greg, tell the people about PrizePicks.
March is over, but the biggest moments in college basketball tip off the month of April. Be part of the action on PrizePicks for both men's and women's college basketball. PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. I had, just the other night, I had Caitlin Clark for more than 30 points and LeBron James for more than 7 3-pointers, and I hit it. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's a match up to $100 by using code CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy over at PrizePicks.
All right, Drake Maye. The script seemed to me it was aimed at Alex Van Pelt, and that could be an overreaction. But is there any thought like, hey, all right, I could go to the Patriots at 3. I want to prove to these guys that I can do a lot off the bootleg action, under center, back to the offense and defensive lines. Do you feel like May try to make that a point, especially running that kind of, hey, I can do the West Coast offense thing, Alex?
I will say that I thought it was not Patriots specific, but I thought it was a blend of basically every type of passing off element that you need in the NFL for varying, offensive schemes. So, plenty of, I love the under center stuff, and I loved how he flipped back and forth because he would do under center, he would do shotgun, he would do RPO throws, he would do, boots. So I think that anybody from, Alex Van Pelt to Brian Daboll to Kevin O'Connell to, the Raiders and I'm trying to think, Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, their offensive coordinator. I think that they basically every offense was able to see something and say that translates to us, that works with us. So that's the way I took it.
I forgot where I heard it or read it because there's so much out there right now. I apologize to the person who had this unique idea or this idea. Wanted to pass it along to you, Greg. I heard somebody recently say in the past few days that Dan Quinn might lean towards Jayden Daniels because as a defensive mind, it's much more difficult to defend somebody like Daniels than it is May, because Daniels, obviously, the athleticism, the running ability. May's athletic, by the way, and can run. He's just not at the level of Daniels. Patriots, right. Last time I checked, they have a defensive-minded head coach. Do you think Gerard Mayo would lean towards Daniels over May with the same idea?
That's a very good question. Now, what would be my answer? I don't know where you read it. I think that's maybe you read it on Reddit. To me, I think that's reaching a bit. I mean, I think we're into April. The draft is getting closer. It's been a long, hard process. To me, I really don't think these head coaches I don't think they have a huge say in terms of the quarterback, especially in Washington. I mean, Adam Peters was hired first. He hired the coach. He's in charge. Now, you could say that's a little bit different in New England, where, they're all sort of communing and sitting by the fire and kumbaya. We're all in the same silo instead of different silos, and collaboration and all that crap. It could be a little bit different in New England. I just think Adam Peters is the guy. He's gonna he's going to pick the quarterback. The head coach is going to go along. I mean, sure, I'm sure they're going to weigh in and things like that. I think both of them, when you're talking about a defensive head coach, I think you're looking, it's hard to defend Jayden Daniels. You also probably think that you could pulverize him and he won't make it out of week 6. You know, we've all seen the injury issues that Lamar Jackson has had in his career. But I think that when you look at the talent of Drake Maye, I don't know how any coach could look at him and say, like, well, that guy's easier to defend. I mean, he is very athletic. He can throw anywhere. He's like, to me, he's Josh Allen light. He's like somewhere, he's lesser than Josh Allen, same sort of traits, but also, you know, Justin Herbert. So I think he's below those guys by a little bit, could get to their level at some point just because, like we said, about his age, his build, love the family background with the dad, the former quarterback, the brothers who are professional athletes. He's the run of the litter. You knew he used to get the crap kicked out of him. It's very similar to Brady. Yeah, he had sisters, but they were all kick-ass athletes. And Tom was sort of the run of the litter and had to fight for everything. And so I just think both of them present different difficulties, but I think that's reaching to say a defensive head coach would want the more versatile quarterback.
I think part of the thought process was looking at the Cowboys' schedule last year and who that defense had a tough time against. And, you know, when you look at some of the quarterback matchups, Cowboys gave up some points to quarterbacks that can run. Maybe that was part of it too, but the point is the point. All right, so we know Patriots, obviously, the evaluators you spoke to, they were split 2-2-2 on what the Patriots should do in the draft at number 3. Not necessarily in love with the Drake Maye option. And you and I talked about Drake Maye. If he was there at 3, both of us would run up and make that pick.
Yep.
So let's look at some mock drafts here. We got 2. And before we jumped on, you mentioned this one to me. I had not seen it. It was released an hour ago. Bedard all over this stuff. Guy's just like on his phone with his big thumbs.
Oh, yeah. I'm all over it.
So Lance Zierlein of NFL.com came out with his latest. And he's got Caleb Williams 1, no shocker. Daniels going 2. And then with the Patriots at 3, Zierlein has the Patriots trading with the Giants. The Giants coming up from 6 to draft Drake Maye. And then the Patriots, they end up using the 6th pick on Malik Neighbors. So that is the trade that is done. I'm trying to find this. You saw this in full. Does he write exactly what picks in the 2nd round, or he just says they move down to 6?
No, he doesn't write. So this is what he writes about. He said, in this 3-spot move up the board, the Giants probably have to pay more than the standard trade chart would indicate since the supply side of the quarterback position is dwindling, but the demand remains high. This is, you know, when it comes for trading out for a quarterback, there's a premium. That's just the way it works. Brian Daboll fostered Josh Allen's raw talents in Buffalo and could have a chance to do the same with this toolsy but inconsistent North Carolina product. I completely agree with his reasoning as far as Daboll, Allen. Daboll could see this guy's a lot like Josh Allen. I was able to mold him into what he is. I could definitely see that. So he doesn't say specifically what the trade is, but looking at what the Giants have, I think it's definitely 47, I would say. That's their 2nd round pick, is 47. And then there's got to be a sweetener. So it could be their 3rd round pick, to me, or it could be a future 2nd or 1st round. To me, it's all about the value of the trade. The theory of trading down from 3 to 6, I don't mind, and I'm not going to reject it. Yes, I'm leaning heavily towards just taking Drake Maye, as we talked about, Nick. But I'm certainly listening to this offer. If it's a 2 and a future 1st for moving up 3 spots, I have to seriously consider this. Now, I'm not taking Malik Neighbors at 6. I'm sorry. I'm taking Joe Alt, and then I'm using the ammunition, either the 2nd round pick or the future 1st, to trade back up and get my next quarterback. I prefer Penix. JJ McCarthy in this mock draft the Vikings trade up to 5 No, excuse me.
To 4.
Where is this?
To
4. Sorry, they trade up to 4 to take JJ McCarthy. So McCarthy's off the board. I would take Penix. I prefer him over, Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler or any of those guys. But depending on if the Giants to move up 3 picks are willing to give you a bounty, a second and a future first, I have to seriously consider that.
Well, I go back to Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network. He mentioned this going back a few weeks ago on his conference call. He said, talking to some people, for the Giants to move up to 3, it would take 3 future seconds. And so his deal was, 3 seconds.
Wow.
Not 3 future seconds, but 3 seconds. So his deal was 39, 47 in this year's draft, and then next year's second-round pick. And
so the Giants have 39?
Yeah, they got 39 and 47.
Okay, because I just looked at – okay, go ahead.
I think they do. I mean, unless Jeremiah was wrong. But he said 2 second-round picks this year and a second-round pick in 2025. So sorry, one breaking in on that. The Giants shipped 39 to the Panthers for Brian Burns. So that pick is not there anymore. All right, so that has been traded since Jeremiah said that. So they did have the pick. They did have that pick. So now they only have 47 and then 70. So, I mean, look, if it was 39, 47 in a future second, then that's a no-brainer. I would do that if I didn't love the quarterback there. But I would hold off. I feel like you. If I'm going to move out of the 3 spot, I need a future first, I feel like. And even if I'm only going down to 6, I still feel like I need that future first-round pick from the Giants. So I would take the second-round pick this year, and I would take next year's first if they were into that idea. All right, another mock draft we wanted to talk about was Tony Pauline from Sportskeeda. He released his mock draft, and he had the Patriots drafting JJ McCarthy. And he had a report with that. Some people might say mock drafts aren't reports, but within the pick, he did report some things. He said that the buzz around the pro day circuit, the buzz was the Patriots wanted JJ McCarthy, and that Elliott Wolf is quote unquote pushing hard for McCarthy and believes he has as much upside as any quarterback in this draft. Just your initial reaction, Greg, to the pushing hard Elliott Wolf regarding JJ McCarthy.
Well, I'll say that I've known Tony for years. He's been around a long time. He's had various jobs. I will say he's pretty good at his job. He's good at the draft, talking to people. He's a big rumor monger. I can't tell you the accuracy of his stuff, but just in terms of my own believability that Wolf would think this way, I'm a little bit doubtful on this. I'm a little dubious on this, just from this aspect. And again, with a lot of this stuff, because Elliott's sort of a blank slate in terms of we don't know what he's going to do. He's never directed a draft. He's always been in the second in command or third in command. So we don't exactly know. But just going off history, especially his genes, which means his dad, Ron Wolf believed in getting the dynamic passer. Leadership and toughness, which we heard Wolf talk about, certainly vital, and you need to start there. But Ron Wolf came from the thinking of he was going to bet on sort of the, how do I put this, the big swinging schmenzer at quarterback. Like, he wasn't this meek guy. Let me get a game manager. Now, I'm not saying JJ McCarthy, we don't know what he's going to be because Michigan was they were built a certain way. They played a certain way through their defense. So it's hard to tell exactly what JJ McCarthy is capable of. But, you look at, Ron Wolf, especially, his trade of Brett Favre, some of his other moves. Ron Wolf believes one of his number one tenets was if you don't have a great quarterback, a transcendent quarterback, you don't have a very good shot at winning the Super Bowl. Everything else has to be perfect. He wants the guy that elevates everybody. And at this point in time, and I could be wrong, but where JJ McCarthy is right now, I don't think you can say that. And I would be surprised if Elliott Wolf believed that JJ McCarthy was one of those transcendent quarterbacks that has the potential to be great in this league. I would be surprised about that.
I have a lot of thoughts about JJ McCarthy and the Pauline stuff and what Elliott Wolf could be thinking. But before I get to that and a few questions for you, what do you make of all the McCarthy talk? To me, Greg, at this point, it's really starting to feel like a smokescreen. I mean, there's just so much every week about McCarthy being said, and all of it is pretty much glowing. And it really started since as soon as the season ended, it was McCarthy could go up. McCarthy could be a top 10 guy. Don't be surprised if McCarthy's top 5. And Jim Harbaugh out there saying, I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. Everything is positive about this guy coming out. Everything is how he's rocketing up, draft boards. If you're Elliott Wolf, do you think that your poop detectors are popping up a little bit with all this McCarthy jazz?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I just don't. Look, there's certainly a lot to like about JJ McCarthy. He's a winner. He was able to play within a system. He's got. I like the snap that he has in his throws. He's like Mac Jones, but more talented, more athletic, better thrower. Has really good stats on third downs, other crucial stats, gotta have it drives. I mean, I just remember that I forget, I don't know if it was the national championship game or the semifinal. And again, I don't watch a lot of college football. But he had, I don't know if it was fourth down or third down and long, and he had some in cut that he hung in the pocket and put it like right where it needed to be over the middle. I mean, that shows stones. So I definitely see the potential, but there's so many games where he didn't even throw 20 passes, and you could say all you want about Michigan was built through their defense and Harbaugh wants to play this way. But again, and Nick, I bring this up all the time when we talk about, whether it's Patriots players or other NFL players, like you should, when the coaches tell you something, you should listen. If JJ McCarthy was this transcendent quarterback that was potential to be the Heisman Trophy winner and the best player in the country and capable of all these great things, the coaching staff would put him in position. He would be the offense. The offense would run through him. It did not run through him. And in fact, yes, he made some. He has really good stats on third down. He's made some really good crucial plays. But there's also a lot of plays where you're like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10, and they're running a quarterback keeper or they're handing the ball off, like very conservative. So it makes you wonder, like, what do the coaches know that we don't know? When the coaches tell you something that they're not putting this guy in position to be the star or to lead things, listen to them. And so, yeah, I'm surprised by it. I don't think Wolf will listen to it.
All right, so McCarthy and the Patriots. Here's the only reasonable thing I could come up with as far as why they might like him. I don't think they'll pick him at 3. I would not pick him at 3. Judging off of what you just said, Greg, you would not pick him at 3. However, let's try to put this together and have some fun, Greg. I mentioned this hypothetical on my podcast earlier today. So let's say Elliott Wolf thinks JJ McCarthy could be really good. He's not there right now, but he could be really good. And Wolf is looking at this through a 2025 lens. And he's saying to himself, if McCarthy was drafted next year, he's a top 3 pick. He's a top 5 pick. So I don't love the idea of McCarthy at 3, but I do really like/love the idea of McCarthy at 11. And if Wolf isn't buying all of the smokescreen stuff, and he thinks McCarthy could find his way down to 11 because Minnesota really wants Drake Maye at 3, then if you kind of put that together, Greg, does it make sense? If Wolf is looking at this and says, all right, I can walk out of this draft. Let's say it's 11-23 and a first next year. Okay, so I can walk out of this draft with McCarthy at 11, 23 I can pick my tackle, 34-68, let's say we double dip at wide receiver. And then I'm going into next year's draft with my quarterback of the future, my left tackle of the future, 2 wide receivers that are young and developing and building, and I have 2 firsts in 2025. Now, I would take Drake Maye, as I have stated. I would take Drake Maye. I would take Jayden Daniels at 3. That's what I would do. But I do think it's reasonable. I don't think it's a crazy thing if Wolf looked at it and said those things. What do you think of that hypothetical?
Yeah, I'm on board with you. I mean, I just think the Patriots are in a position, and again, I don't think that they're, they're in a tough spot, and they're probably 2 years away this upcoming season, and then a year away, I guess. This is sort of like a rebuilding year of, really sort of threatening for the postseason and doing something, being heard from again. So I understand the sentiment of, building up the team, and you're still getting a good quarterback up. A lot of it's going to come down to, and this is going to be the tough part of this draft, because I do think, and this is every draft, there are so many teams that are QB needy that you don't know what's going to happen. And you might look back at, trading back, and, maybe I have a shot at JJ McCarthy, but maybe that might not happen. But I'm assessing everything, and I don't mind your scenario that you laid out, including, having multiple picks in the future, but I'm building up on the young core that the Patriots have. And I think that's going to be the secret to their success long-term.
And you led me perfectly to like my thought process, where like if you are thinking that, if you're Wolf, again, I want to make it clear, I would draft the guy with the high ceiling at 3. I would take the big swing. But if you are Wolf and you're thinking, I'm not in love with Maye or Daniels, and I can move down to 11 and get McCarthy and supplement him with better talent, I would say, obviously, inherently, there's a risk. And Greg brought up the first thing, which is you could lose your guy. You move down to 11, you can't move back up. Somebody leapfrogs you. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Now we might have to pick Bo Nix at like 23 or Michael Penix at 23 or 34 and figure it out, and you don't want to be in that situation. I would also just say this. It's about the eval. If you're going to make that kind of a move, it's all about the board and how you read the board and what you know around the league and your evaluation. And we've seen teams, Baltimore Ravens, move up into the first round after drafting Hayden Hurst at 25 and draft Lamar Jackson. They had Hayden Hurst obviously rated above Lamar Jackson in that draft room. So think about that for a second. But they looked like geniuses because, Hayden Hurst didn't end up being an all-pro or anything, I don't think. Not from my recollection. But nobody goes, oh, man, you took Hayden Hurst before you took Lamar Jackson. Nobody cares about that. So in 2 years from now, if JJ McCarthy is a good to very good NFL quarterback, and you got all the things that you around him that are necessary to help him get there because you made that trade down. We saw it with the Celtics. Different league, obviously, but you moved from 1 to 3 because you loved Jason Tatum, but you knew the board. You knew that Philadelphia was picking Markelle Fultz, which allowed you to make the deal, i.e. Minnesota Vikings picking Drake Maye, and you knew that the Lakers wanted Lonzo Ball. And because you knew that, you knew you could get Jason Tatum at 3, and that's exactly what you did. You ended up with the best player out of that draft and picking up a future first-round pick in one of the most outrageous trades Danny Ainge ever pulled. So you got to know the board. You got to trust your evaluations. And, of course, everything is just, you're throwing some darts as well. All right, just 2 more things for Greg before we bid you adieu today. But I do want to remind you the episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today. Use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. And, of course, Greg over at BSJ. Check him out, $50 for the year. Great coverage of the Patriots between Greg and Mike Giardi. All right, quick update on Matthew Judon. Mike Kadlick at EEI spoke with Judon, who apparently opened up a restaurant down in Dallas, so congratulations to him on that. Good luck. Food business ain't easy. Judon said this, quote, I think with the contract stuff, if it happens, it happens. If we can get a new contract worked out to where I try to end my career in Boston, that'd be great. So first of all, Judon's telling us, I want a long-term deal. If we can get a new deal worked out and I can retire in Boston, I'm all in on that. What do you think happens with Judon?
I think that Wolf has left himself a lot of options. I think, bringing back Uche and Anthony Jennings along with the draft coming up. I think that Wolf could go any number of directions. Now, part of me, and I think I've said this before, that since they didn't add a premium edge player, which I thought they might do, I thought they might swap out Judon for somebody else, like we talked about, like Danielle Hunter or somebody like that. They did not do that. So it would seem to indicate that Judon would be back. I mean, he's basically their only blue chip player. He's their only elite player. So why wouldn't you have him back? But yeah. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to wait for the draft to see what they do. If they take an edge guy up higher than many of us think, I mean, I think they could go all offense in this draft, or at least a majority of it. Maybe take a cornerback or a free safety, something like that. But if they get an edge guy, it's very possible that they move on from Judon. But as of right now, I think they'll figure out some sort of smart deal to keep him here. But I think it'll only extend it by like a year or two. I don't think they're going to make a huge investment in him.
By the way, Judon also told EEI that the plan is for him to be in Foxborough for the start of the offseason program. So 6 days from now, we'll see if that happens, and we'll see how much he's participating. Last one for you. Bill Belichick didn't get to this. It came out late last week. Sounds like Billy B might be writing a book, or at least Burge, somebody that knows him's writing a book about Bill Belichick. Doesn't sound, though, like it's going to be a drama-filled shot fest at the Patriots, right, Greg?
Yeah, not yet, at least for that book. From what I hear, Bill's eyeing writing multiple books when he's done. Now, he doesn't think he's quite done. But for now, as sort of a project, this was the scuttlebutt at the league meetings, and I don't know how true it is, but the scuttlebutt at the league meetings was Belichick's writing a book. It's about leadership geared more towards businesses, and is being written, and maybe just ghostwritten, by Bears Nigerian, his former director of football, administrative assistant with the Patriots, who is now Bill O'Brien's chief of staff at Boston College. That's at least the rumor mill at the league meetings.
Billy B, all of a sudden.
Does that interest you?
He's going to write many, many volumes, apparently. Look at all my leather-bound books. He's going to become an author when he retires. Didn't see that one coming.
Hey, by the way, Bill, call me. The things we talked about before, still interested. Call me. I'm available. Oh,
look at you. I don't anticipate Bill Belichick writing anything controversial. At least not right now. I don't see it. He still wants to coach, and he's not going to do that. He's not going to come out and write a scathing book about Robert Kraft and the Patriots organization when he still feels like he'll be coaching in the league next year, because that would just start a storm of crap. And that's not what Belichick wants. He don't want to put that in the lap of his new owner. Hey, how about you hire me so everybody can ask me about that book I just wrote, burning the Gillette Stadium facility down to the ground. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. All right, he's Greg. I'm Nick. We'll be back later this week with more Patriot stuff. Things are flying every single day, so we'll have something to talk about, I'm sure. Until then, be well.